Sri Swami Prabhananji, Swami Girisnanji, Heman Maharaj, dignitaries, students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is indeed a very special privilege for me to be here. I thank all the organizers, especially you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I'm essentially overwhelmed with the audience, warmth, love and affection that you all have shown. I want to thank you for your time, and I would like to take this opportunity to share with you a little bit of Knowledge Commission. I assume you have covered a lot of it. And looking at a lot of these young students, I can't help but remember my own young days not too long ago. Just about 40 years ago, I was in the same position you are in, and I thought it would be a good idea to just go through my own journey. I would like to share with you and some of the lessons that I have learned in the process. It may make sense to you, it may not make sense to you, but at times I feel it is important to share your journey. So let me first begin by telling you a little bit about the Knowledge Commission. However, I also must say that my association with the Vedanta Society in Chicago in my young days goes long ways. I remember at times once very clearly Swami Bhasyanand needed some wooden furniture. So he was all puzzled. This was in 65 or 66. Being the son of a carpenter, I heard about it and I said, don't worry, I'll make all the furniture for you. So I spent a couple of weekends on the project, and I had always enjoyed my interactions with him. Over a period of time, we had developed a special bond. He used to come to our house quite often. My wife is very religious compared to, I would say, anybody else in the family. And we do have sweet memories of our associations. So let me start with the Knowledge Commission. National Knowledge Commission was set up by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh just about 3 years ago to look at institutions and infrastructure required for the 21st century. Going forward, human capital is going to be the key to nation building. As we enter from capital intensive industrial base into knowledge intensive information base, human capital in terms of ideas, innovations, entrepreneurship is becoming the key part of wealth creation, prosperity, development, so on and so forth. I have had an opportunity to work on telecom information for just about 45 years. And I am one of those who firmly believe that information brings about openness, accessibility, connectivity, networking, democratization, decentralization, and as a result, social transformation. Having worked with this, I am convinced that information also brings about whole new kind of lifestyle, leadership, self, interactions, relationships. So when Prime Minister decided to set this up, our first task was to really identify key people. We identified 8 distinguished people from all walks of life with substantial track record to participate in this commission. This include people like Dr. Ashok Ganguly, Deepak Nair, Nandan Nilekani, Jayati Ghosh, Sujata Ramadurai, Dr. Mathu. And over a period of time, we all have become close friends. We meet once every 2 months for 2 days, and we look at essentially 5 aspects of knowledge. Access to knowledge, which include languages, translations, libraries, broadband networks, portals, affirmative action programs, reservations, quotas, right to education, and variety of other issues. The concept is to improve and enhance access to knowledge for all. Second area we focus on is knowledge concepts, which essentially relate to education. Primary education, secondary education, distance learning, open courseware, vocational education, higher education. How do we get more of our children into PhD programs, maths and sciences, teachers training? Then we focus on knowledge creation. Who creates knowledge? How knowledge is created? What do you do when the knowledge is created? So essentially patents, copyright, trademark, innovations, entrepreneurship. We also look at application of knowledge with focus on 3 areas: health, agriculture, and small and medium scale industries. Finally, we look at use of knowledge in improving governance with focus on e-governance at federal level as well as at state level. So sum total, we look at about 30 different subjects. This is the first knowledge commission in the world. I get calls from all over the world, Mexico, Japan, US, Europe, basically saying, how did you all think of it? People have had commission on information, education, science, but not on knowledge. One key element in all of this is also traditional knowledge. We have such a tradition of sound traditional knowledge that at times doesn't get the kind of attention it deserves. Simply put it, when my mother was old, she lived with me for 20 years, and I used to tell her that, Mom, when you die, the entire pickle technology of the Pitroda family will vanish. No one paid attention to the fact that she used to make 80, 90 different types of pickles. That traditional knowledge is so very valuable that we have not been able to harness in this modern context. I tell my American friends that my mother delivered 8 children in a tribal little village in Orissa, where there was no electricity, no running water, no sanitation, no doctors, no schools. All 8 out of 8 turned out normal, physically, mentally, and the total expense was 0. It is hard to comprehend in this modern world that that kind of cost structure is possible to deliver 8 children. But I do remember that there was a dai with some traditional wisdom who used to come home and give some herbal massage and some oil massage and do all kinds of little things to children. I think when she died, we lost that knowledge altogether. So we do want to focus on traditional knowledge, use modern technology of IT, computer, software to essentially systematize, document. About 15 years ago, I was involved in a program by accident. There is a young man who used to come to my office, Darshan Shankar, and he told me that in India we have 12,000 herbal medicinal plants which are unique only to India. And no one seems to know any information on this plant systematically. So I said, let's computerize this. This was in 1987, 88. So we decided to set up a foundation called Foundation for Revitalization of Local Health Tradition in Bangalore. And we went to government then to get some funding, and nobody would fund us because it had to do with traditional knowledge. Couldn't get any money. By then Rajiv Gandhi had lost election, so we were not in position of power to sort of, convince people. Finally, we got about $4 million from Danish government, started computerizing one by one with the idea of preserving genetic pool, worked with the government then to build 50 herbal gardens, 50 acres, 500 acres each. In 15 years, we have documented 90% of the Indian herbal medicinal plants. You can look it up by going to www.frlht.org. This has now become a massive activity. We have huge amount of funding. We just got about 30 crores from Tata. But it took 15 years to document traditional knowledge, and it's still not done. And that's just one little branch of the traditional knowledge. Going back to Knowledge Commission, and you will see a lot of our white papers, discussions, recommendations, and all of that. Unfortunately, people here don't quite read. I'm ashamed to say that a country of 1 billion people, we get 7,000 hits a month. Best of the best professors, vice chancellors, principals, teachers have never even opened Knowledge Commission website. There is so much knowledge there about knowledge, about education, that no one takes trouble to really dig into. Yesterday I gave 2 major lectures in Bangalore. One we had about 1,800 students, and one at the Bangalore Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. And lots of these children after my talk would come and ask me questions. And after a while, I'm also a normal human being. I also have temper, unfortunately. I also get irritated once in a while. So when 4 or 5 children started asking some dumb questions, I told them, I said, look, young man, if I had this opportunity to meet a speaker like this, I would have at least Googled the person. Say, who is this fellow? Then I would have found out a little more about Knowledge Commission website. I would have done my homework before telling me, sir, do you know that teacher training is important? Come on, give me a break. So I told them that in this country, everybody knows how to do Prime Minister's job. They really don't know how to do their job. So I urge you to go look at Knowledge Commission website, and you will see lots of interesting recommendations. Not that everything we have said is the ultimate, but we have really put basic issues on the table. We have stirred up the national debate. After our letter to the PM, these recommendations automatically go to various ministers, and then various ministries are supposed to implement. Naturally, there is resistance to some of it. Many of these subjects are state subjects. So for example, yesterday I met with the Chief Minister in Karnataka, talked about how some of these recommendations can be implemented at state level immediately. And we are talking to people like you to get local support. Essentially, this is a movement. And we have to create groundswell for generational change and not incremental change. The education system today we have are essentially obsolete. A few months ago, I was asked to give a keynote speech by Condoleezza Rice in Washington, D.C. on higher education opportunities in the world. The thesis there was that Condoleezza Rice wants to use education as an instrument of foreign policy in the 21st century. So when I got my chance at the keynote speech, I said, look, US education is great, but it is too expensive. It's not scalable. Content is not relevant. Technology has not given dividends. And there are all kinds of issues. Our issues are very different. We have created such a demand for education in India that we don't have supply. So first real challenge is expansion. We need more colleges, more universities, more vocational education, more schools. In a country where 300,000 people apply or take exam for IITs and only few thousand get in, there is something fundamentally wrong. Because the 3,000 get in, I know that the remaining 30,000 are equally good. And they should be given a chance. Our young are as good as anywhere else if they are given the right direction, right opportunity, right environment, right ecosystem. We are a young country. We have 550 million below age of 25. Everywhere else, population is aging and decreasing. In India, population is increasing and young. So when I look at this 550, I look at this as workforce for the world. Today we have 25 million people of Indian origin outside India. I perhaps see a day where there will be 200 million. So when we train, we want to train them for the humanity and not just for India. We have moral responsibility to make sure that the world that we want to create is very different from the world that we see today. In my lecture at Indian Institute of Science yesterday, I talked about the fact that the American model of consumption is not sustainable, nor it is scalable. We must evolve a different model, and the crisis that you see today in the world, economic crisis, is really a crisis of a new model. All of the things that we did for the last 50 years or 60 years have gotten us to a point that we need to rethink through the next 50 years as human civilization. Because then, 60 years ago, when we had put in all of the ground rules in place, no one ever thought that Gandhiji's movement of decolonization will create aspirations in billion people. 60 years ago, if somebody had said there will be 10 Indians in 50 years who would be richer than Queen Elizabeth, nobody would have believed you. Today it's a reality. So democratization, decolonization has played an important role in creating a whole new world. And we as Indians have a moral responsibility to show a new path based on our rich heritage, our rich culture, and our long history. We have the diversity, a great genetic pool. We have young population. and we have a dream to create new kind of a world. So Knowledge Commission is just one little step. Many of you who are young may not know that almost 25 years ago, I had an opportunity to work on telecom with Rajiv Gandhi, with very clear commitment to connect this country. Because I was convinced that telecom will be an instrument of change. Then we had 2 million telephones for 750 million people. It used to take 15 years to get a telephone connection. Today we are adding 10 million new telephones every month. That revolution took about 20 years. I believe the knowledge revolution is going to take another 20. We are just starting the process. Based on some of the work we have done, Government of Manmohan Singh has decided to spend $67.5 billion on education in the next 5 years. This is 5 times the amount of commitment that government ever made to education spending. We want to build 30 new national universities, 400 new colleges, 4,000 new schools, lots of midday meal programs, and we need to build capacity everywhere. If we are to continue our economic growth at the rate of 7, 8, 9, 10%, we need skilled manpower. We do not have qualified manpower. This does not mean just engineers and scientists. We don't have blacksmiths, plumbers, electricians, welders, carpenters. How are we going to meet these demands? And we need to train people for the tools of tomorrow. We also need to bring dignity to labor. Many years ago, I remember I had invited a carpenter, or my wife had invited a carpenter to fix some paintings at home in Delhi. And as I walk into the house, I see this carpenter taking a screw and hammering it, and I grabbed his hand. And I said, "You can't do that." And he looked at me, I look a little weird anyway. So he says, "Why?" I said, "Do you know that you can only hammer a nail? You cannot hammer a screw." And he said, "I do it all the time." I said, "Nobody ever taught you this?" He said, "No." He said, "This is convenient, so I didn't have nail, I had screw, so I hammer a screw." It is this that we have to change. In other words, we need to give him new tools. We need to bring dignity to labor. Every time I see on Indian television, Food Corporation or some shipping companies, and people carrying pounds and pounds or kilos and kilos of baggage on their back, I tell myself, why can't we create tools for these people? So when I talk of vocational education, I'm not just talking about teaching them, but also empowering them with right kind of tools and technology to be able to do this job with modern facilities and with dignity. I can go on and give you all kinds of input on what we are doing at the Knowledge Commission, but I would say that the journey has just started. In 3 years, we have submitted 250 recommendations. We have made a dent in the government in terms of need to change. We have gone to public to create dialogue, and we have had commitment from the government to spend the right kind of money. But this is the beginning. This change cannot wait, because this is connected with the future of our children. Most of the people planning their future are pretty old like me. You'll quiet down. This is the time to demand change in education. Otherwise, your future is at stake. That's all I can tell you. Okay. Yes. Where are you? Turn it off.
Turn it off. My name is Shubhodip Das. I am first year electronics and telecommunication student in Ramakrishna Mission Silpo Mandir. You told us about the modern way of educating students, like by internets and mobile phones, etc. But in India, how poor students will be educated in this system? This is massive, especially in India, as this is expensive.
I understand you are right that not everyone can afford computers. But now we are getting to a point everyone can afford cell phone. It was not possible 20 years ago. So we'll get there. I believe computer is going to be more like a textbook. If you're going to spend 5,000 rupees in 4 years on textbook, pretty soon computer will be 10,000 rupees or 8,000 rupees.
So this will be fruitful nearly in future.
To some it will be future, to some it will be present. There are students who can afford it, to them it is present. There are some who can't afford it, it will be future.
That's a relative.
Unfortunately, that's the way life is.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Hello.
Yeah, 1 second. Here,
There's a lady here.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you. Well, I stand somewhere. I'm Momita Talukdar and I am in...
If you can just hold a little closer.
Sure. I'm Momita Talukdar and I represent a particular organization dealing with corporate trainings in human resource management. Since in your particular lecture today, you had stated certain points very close to my heart. There's one small thing I'd just like to ask you. Since you have been in this area dealing with people from different walks of life, of different ages, and from both the private, public, corporate sector and the government sector. So you must have faced this too, that when we come to dealing with such, any idea, with all these people around, it so happens that elderly people who are of your generation or senior generation, even if it's true in the house also, that they have their fixed mindset and based on their traditional knowledge and experience, which we all love and respect. But unfortunately, it's not possible for us to break that barrier, because when we try to do that, it is taken off as a sign of disrespect. And we as youngsters desperately need a way out to find...
I'll give you a very simple way out.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them. I told my mother, I loved my mother like all of us do, and she always said, why do you keep this funny looking hair? And she said, why don't you get a haircut? And I told her one day, I said, Mom, I stopped going to barber 45 years ago. I cut my own hair. The reason being that the barber we had on the IIT campus in Chicago used to smoke in your face. So while I was getting haircut, he'll smoke in your face. I hated him, and that was the only barber on campus. So I said, stop going to barber. My mother never liked it. Too bad. Mom.
Thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Myself, Samar Chakravarti.
Where are you?
Myself, Samar Chakravarti, HOD Electrical Engineering Department, Ramakrishna Mission Silpo Mandir.
We can't hear you. I can't hear you well.
Hello, you hear me? Hello, you hear me?
Yeah, whosoever there is.
Sir, myself, Samar Chakravarti,
That's good.
head of the Electrical Engineering Department, Ramakrishna Mission Silpo Mandir. Sir, my question is, at present our conventional system, we are getting MA or PhD degree from university. So my suggestion, the poor man who are making good image of goddess of Durga, etc., Kali, and poor weaver who are making the fine Banarasi sari, why not government emphasis to get them a university degree like MA and PhD? Then they will be very much satisfied and their future generation will be encouraged to come there and continue their family tradition.
I think it is more important to create market for them than degrees for them. Degrees are nice to hang on the wall.
No, sir, for their mentally satisfaction and
Fine. So
and not only that, the future generation not coming their original profession. If they getting some degree,
maybe you should honor some of these and give them honorary doctorate.
But this will be from the government side or Knowledge Commission, etc. sir.
Knowledge Commission can't do these things. Knowledge Commission is not in
Government
operation.
should emphasis from Knowledge Commission to take instruction to universities.
First, I appreciate your concern for the artists and craftspeople. I am with you on that. Okay? We have so much of art and culture in the country, whether it is Madhubani paintings or it is, Orissa's art. These people don't get recognition, remuneration, and access to markets. It is an issue. I've been working with Rajiv Sethi, friend of mine, who is into all this, and I'm learning from him. But I don't know what can be done. Somebody needs to champion it. I'm not the guy. Somebody needs to champion it. I agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
I can hear him.
Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Sir, I have a clarification of in the speech.
Where are you?
Amit.
Yeah, I can't see you, but anyway.
Yeah. My name is Samidrendu Anand and I am a second year software engineering student from this institute. Your speech was awesome. Okay. It was a mixture of human beliefs, religious beliefs, spirituality, as well as everything, and apart from all, making of a knowledge society. But in between of this speech, I found that you are more inclined towards Gandhiji's Varda scheme. Okay, you were like, apart from just the bookish knowledge, technical knowledge should be provided to student. So is it so that you are you're influenced by the Gandhiji's thought?
Is that a question?
No, it's a clarification.
Okay, what was the question? Of course I am influenced by Gandhiji's thought. Of course. Very much so. Gandhiji's thought has been driving my life all along. I was born in 42. Remember?
Yeah.
So when Gandhiji died, I was a little kid, and that's all we studied in those days. From Gujarati parents. That was the rule of law at home. Okay? So you could escape that. And I'm glad that we learned that early in life.
You also think that knowledge should be provided with book as well as technical skilled labor should be there.
I don't know where we moved from Gandhi to technical labor. I didn't get it.
No, I'm just asking about the scheme. Okay, he was in belief of students should be provided bookish knowledge as well as the technical knowledge also.
Of course.
So as you were telling,
You need soft skills, you need hard skills, you need specialization, you need all of that. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can we? One or two more. Thank you. Please.
Just one question, sir. Excellent lecture I have seen. Good. So one thing I have to know that knowledge is created by research. So what is the opinion of Knowledge Commission on that?
Well, there's a lot of recommendations related to bringing research in universities. What has happened in our system is we bifurcated CSIR and all other research institutions from university. So our professors don't do research and our research scientists don't teach. So we need to bring those back, and that's part of the recommendation.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. So,
Can we just have two more questions because I have to go?
good afternoon, sir. So,
Yeah, sorry.
I'm a student of Sunrise English Medium School. My name is Rishabh Killa. So I have a question. In the scheduled caste, so that quota system. So why it is?
Go ahead, speak.
Hello.
Speak. Don't look.
Hello. So because of that, so we are not getting the means in future protest prospect how we will get means.
Look, on reservation, our views are on the website, Knowledge Commission. Supreme Court decided what we should be all doing. So best we could do as good citizens is follow that. We may not agree with it. That's okay. Let's move on. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, the need will change. Today, it is an issue because of supply demand. The demand is high, supply is low. When the supply demand matches, nobody will worry about it. So until then, let's not complain. Move on.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I am Ritranjan Srivastava of class 11 of Standard English Medium School, and I've got an opportunity to ask a question to you, sir.
This is the last question, then I gotta go.
Okay, sir. So, being a student, I don't want to ask you anything about knowledge commission, etc. For something different, sir. Definitely, I am interested in the acquisition of knowledge. We know that every child has some ambition to attain, but it is the society of India that pulls our legs back and we are held behind. Sir, what way can we overcome this problem?
I didn't get the question. Did you?
Sir, definitely I am interested in the acquisition of knowledge. We know that every child has some ambition to attain, but it is the society of India that pulls our legs back and we are held behind.
Okay, my request to you would be, don't worry about society of India holding you back. Just go to Google and start Google searching for the knowledge you want. Okay? Just Google.
No, sir, it is in the higher studies we are going and we find it.
But you know what I'm saying? Nobody can hold you from acquiring knowledge. There is no such thing.
So we can acquire knowledge, it's okay. Sir, but in several societies we find that the friends are pulling back. They see that their friends are getting more knowledge.
Change your friends.
Thank you, Dr. Pitroda. It's very nice of you to spare so much time.
Thank you.
And the questions will be ended.
Thank you, sir. Sir, last question.
Yeah, he will be. Anyone interested in more questions, they should go to All India Management Association program, which will be scheduled next at 3 o'clock. He will be talking there, and it is at Swabhumi in Calcutta. So, thank you, Dr. Pitroda. I request Swami Prabhanji to say a few words, and Chancellor of our Vivekananda University and the top executive of our Mutt mission.
Dr. Shyam Pitroda, Swamis, Brahmacharyans, distinguished guests, and my dear students. Well, like almost every one of you, I have very much enjoyed this lecture, and I am very much proud that we could get this opportunity. However, what I heard about the Knowledge Commission from him is no doubt quite interesting, but more interesting was the life philosophy that he has described. And, well, whatever is available these days, I know something about this Knowledge Commission and the Knowledge Commission recommendation, etc. But I personally feel that in the case of learning, as you all know, there are three aspects. One is knowledge, second is skill, and third one is value. I am afraid the recommendations that I have read so far, there is not much attention that has been given to the values. And so far we are concerned, in the administration, as for example, we find that, as Dr. Pitroda has already mentioned, that there are a lot of beautiful recommendations, very thought-provoking recommendations, but there is not enough management technique known to us by which we can implement those recommendations. This is a very big problem. This particular problem must be attended to, otherwise all these recommendations will be simply put in pipe. So these are the two things. However, without taking any further time, I heartily thank Dr. Pitroda and also all of you who have attended this program. I wish he comes here once again and enlighten us with his such original thoughts. Many thanks.